Alright, welcome back. So today we're going to be installing the Crude Diesel Performance's e-fuel kit for the Ford OBS's that we filmed the review on last time on my crew cab. This kit we're going to be installing on my single cab. Well, I'm going to be installing, you're going to be watching and enjoying me struggle. But this is a full kit that I went over, but I'll go over it quickly. So a quick rundown on the Crude Diesel Performance kit. So it's full comprehensive kit to delete the fuel bowl and convert it to a Super Duty electric fuel pump, which it does come with. It comes with a mount as well, gauge to go in the fuel regulator, which I will be using since I don't have an in-cab gauge at the moment. In the future I'm going to wire that in similar like I did with the crew cab. Comes with zip ties, awesome, love it. This is the banjo fitting to go in the fuel valley for the fuel lines where the mechanical pump was or will be. The fuel filter mounts, fuel filters obviously, various fittings, hose fittings, hardware to mount. These are bar fittings. It does come with shut-off valves as well, which is nice. This is the plug for the valley where the mechanical fuel pump comes out of, which is pretty nice. More fittings as well. These are all for the lines. It does come with the hosing that you need, and it is wrapped in this plastic abrasive, which is nice. It's not just regular exposed hose. Looks like it'll be all the hose that I'll need, if probably some more. It does have the fuel return, and then electrical wire loom with a relay and an inline fuse, which is really nice. Looks pretty simple, straightforward, so we'll get to it. Also, shout out to Crude for good instructions. Hard to come by these days. Actually, good pictures, good explanations. So, pretty straightforward kit though. You probably wouldn't need these, but it is really nice, especially for the fuel bowl delete work. It's nice. Not sponsored by Crude Diesel at all, but I do like the kit. I have one on this crew cab. I do have one on the crew cab, so I like the kit enough to put it on single cab. So yeah, here we go. We'll put this on the single cab. This is going to be not a how-to per se. It's going to be more of a talk some, do some, show some style video. But it'll give you the general gist of what it'll take to install, and you can use it as a reference or just enjoy me struggling. But at least got the top side creeper. If you don't have one of these, I highly recommend, whether your back is 25 or feels 55, this thing is amazing because you can just lay on it, put all the weight, put all the weight on your torso and not on your lower back and your legs. Alright, so I've got the fuel hose ran. I'll show you. So I've got this all mocked up. I've got to change a couple more things, I think, but here's my fuel filter setup. So it's going to be a bit back and forth as I mounted the pump on the inside of the frame rail. As you can see, I wanted to use existing holes in the frame, so it's a bit messy because it's tight. This is a single cab, and this is even a two-wheel drive transmission. So a lot of this is temporary because I want to put a ZF6 with a transfer case because I have Super Duty axles and I want four-wheel drive. So this was also challenging because I have the radius arm brackets, so I couldn't just put some of this on the other side. So I'll walk you through tank to front. So took the supply line, factory supply line off the factory hard line, and routed it over the top here, and then connected it to just a little bit extra hose to make this bend a little bit easier and not kink it. And like I said, I'm probably gonna have to redo this, so I didn't want to have to do new hosing, so I could probably use this again. That was the thought behind it. So then it goes into the first shut off valve, and then into the first filter, and then it comes out on the barb fitting, goes up and over. Ow, letting all hold on, ouch, don't yell at me, stop it. Alright, so that first filter line comes up and over, comes around, just a little bit of excess to give it some good arch and not kink it. So then it goes into the fuel pump. This is that fitting, forward fitting, which is really nice because I gave it all this slack so I can also take the fuel pump off and hang it down, so I don't have to do all my work up here. I can actually hang the fuel pump down and work on it. So it goes into the fuel pump, comes out. So this is your factory return. So then this comes out of the fuel pump, comes up and around the usual loop, and then comes out and then into, gosh, I'm getting all oriented, there we are. It comes out and into the second filter. Just a barb fitting like normal, goes through the filter, and then here's the second shut-off valve. And then this will go to the valley of the engine. It'll just go up and over the frame rail and up through the brake lines and then over with the engine harness. And still got the zip tie it all, but came out pretty good. That's my light. With it such tight packaging, it was quite difficult to get everything to work without drilling a bunch of holes. So this is using pretty much all factory holes. And it came up pretty good. I'm happy with it. I need to run power to the fuel pump, which is what I'm working on in a second. I'll show you. Just wanted to show you this before it got too dark. So then, here's the outside of the frame rail. But it does hang down pretty far, as you can see. But you can always get smaller filters, so. But I'm happy with it. That works. It'll work for now until I get the manual in with a 4x4. And then I'll mount this properly with a bracket, I think. But this is just to get it running and working, so. Alright, I'll show you the front of the truck while I'm doing electrical now. Alright, for electrical, power to the fuel pump, there's the relay, using an existing hole. Supplied hardware, which was awesome, all grade 8 stuff. And then you have a couple of leads here. I'll follow. You get a lot of wire, which is great. So here's your battery power with a fuse, and then this long 2-strand. One of them is key on power, so you can run it to the water in fuel sensor since you're not going to use it anymore. It comes on with key power. You can run this to whatever you want to key on power. You could do it to a switch, whatever you want. So then you get quite a bit of wire. There we are. It even comes with the fuel pump nut and washer, which when you buy the Super Duty fuel pump doesn't come with it. It's one of the most frustrating things, and Crude Diesel Performance supplies it with you, which is awesome. I remember when I put my own custom kit together for another truck, I had to go source these, which was annoying, but yeah, super nice that it comes with it, and it comes with all the terminals and whatnot. So I just have to run this to the back along the frame rails to the fuel pump, which I'll do that now. And then I'll show you the fuel hose. Haven't done any of the engine valley stuff yet, but the fuel hose just will come out of the valley, follow the engine harness down by the vacuum block, distribution block, and then just down the empty space that's down there. Let's see if I can get a line there for you. There you are. And I'll just tighten it up a little bit once I get everything sorted, so that'll work. So, alright, here's another look at the electrical for the pump. You can just route these all over here. So let me get this all hooked up, and then I'll show you how I've cleaned it up and got it connected. Again, not sponsored by Crude Diesel, but highlighting a good product when I see one. This is a prime example. So this is the excess from the fuel pump, power and ground. So it not only comes with the fuel pump terminal, the stud terminal nut and washer, that doesn't come with it from when you buy it from anywhere. It comes with the ring terminal, a little piece of shrink wrap, and the zip ties are even color coded because the stud diameter and threads are different. So he even does that. I mean, that's just mint. What a treat. So it got a little bit dark, but I mounted the relay, and then I routed the wiring to the battery to power the relay with the inline fuse that just hangs on the negative terminal. Pretty easy stuff. And then actually ran the power back along the frame rail. I actually ran it along the fuel line, same path, and it works properly. So now what we're working on is getting the fuel ball out, and then mechanical fuel pump. So gonna start loosening some things. Got my behemoth of a 1.25" wrench for that banjo bolt. So it's pretty easy, just a little bit finicky in there. Got to get these hard lines off, or the soft line fittings off, and then there's 2 bolts, one on each side. A bit hard to see, but they're down there, promise. And then I've got to get this bad boy out, a couple of bolts on each side, and then getting the banjo out. So we get all the old stuff out, and then I'll update you. But it'll be nice to have this engine valley clean and clear. Makes it a lot easier to work in there. So I'll be back in a second. So the Y pipe comes off really easily. Just a couple of hose clamps, pops it off. There is a gasket that sits here on the turbo. I had to make sure to grab that. Looks like it's to be an alright shape, so I'll just reuse it. And then you pop this hose cover off from in the valley. You see it much better here. Alright, so I'll give you a better look here with the Y pipe out. So those fuel ball bolts are down there. You can see there's one there, and there's one down there. Really easy to get to actually with an extension. And then these are the 2 fuel fittings. There's one underneath as well, right there. Both of them pop off pretty easily actually. And then yeah, wiring harness, you got to unplug here, and then there's one other spot, and the whole thing should just lift right out. So I'll show you lifting it out in a second. Should be pretty easy. Alright, settle down, mate. Alright, there it is. Greasy as ever, but out. Here's the wiring harness that I'll need to pull off. But let me just straighten that out. Yeah, it's pretty easy. Straightforward. Alright, I got the fuel bowl out. And looky what we have here. I wonder what the source of my fueling issue was. I wonder. You don't need a nut on the back of your IPR. It's fine. Well, I'm hoping to find the nut that's in here, a nut from the back of the IPR in this mess of a squirrel's nest, because they made themselves well at home, it seems. But I'm gonna clean this all out, hoping. If not, I guess rebuild kit. Well, rebuild kit at minimum, but I don't know if you can buy just this nut on the back, but we'll see. So the mechanical fuel pump is probably fine. It was just leaking really bad. That was definitely the cause of my issues, but we will continue. Continue the e-fuel kit anyway, and then we'll rebuild that and it'll be running better than ever, so it'll be worth it. But at least I found it now and not on the side of the road, because you know what Ford stands for: found on road dead. Alright, so I will get to work on cleaning, lucky me. Alright, bit better, a little light cleaning here with some purple power, scrubbed it a bit, vacuumed it out. Came out alright, not perfect, but it's good enough. So, but unlike the squirrels that were nesting in here, I didn't find my nut. Found all theirs though, but alright, so I'll have to order that. Not a problem, just sucks that I won't be able to start this truck up today then, which sucks, but it's alright. So next up is to, already got the wrench on there, crack that banjo bolt back there on the fuel lines to the mechanical pump, and then zip these two 10 mils out there, and there's one down there as well. You can just barely see it. There you go. That's better. So I'll rip those two out and then pull that sucker out, and let's hope the plunger doesn't drop into the engine. Alright, I figured you'd want to be here for the moment of truth. Got it all loosened up, prying on it. We'll see if I lose the plunger. It's not the end of the world, it can just fall down to the oil pan. Can is the key word there. Oh, look at that! Where's the camera at? Look at that! All intact. So, mechanical fuel pump out. The danger is that plunger can fall out into that hole, and that's not great. It can cause some problems. It's fine. Cool. Alright. Got that out. So yeah, I'll show you that rattling around in the engine bay. It's fine. You don't need to worry about additional material. It's fine. The bearings like that. They like companion metal. Alright. That's all out. More cleaning. And then we'll continue. Alright, so a bit of cleaning. Good enough for government work. It's alright. So next up is I got to put a plug in that hole, since we're not using it anymore, and that is what the new banjo adapter is going to sit on. And this is the banjo bolt that we'll reuse. It'll go on the back like normal, and then there'll be the banjo fitting, and then it will go to a bob fitting, which will go back to the fuel pump and filters. Pretty easy stuff. And so for the plug for that hole, since we're not going to use it, is this. It comes with a kit. Tying down on this nut, it squishes the rubber out and grabs on, and then this washer clamps down as well. It's pretty cool. You basically just plug it in and tighten it until as soon as it starts to raise, and then stop. So pretty simple. I'll just do that now. I'll show you. So all you do, just push that in there all the way down. Then you take your wrenchery now, and you just tighten it until as soon as it starts to raise, and then you stop, because that banjo bolt, you don't want to put any leverage on these lines back here by tilting it up by having this too high. So I'll tighten that down and I'll show you. And there you have it. Plug is in. Got a little bit of cherry flavored Loctite on there just so it doesn't back off. Not that it probably would, but these engines rattle so much you can never be too careful. So next up, I'll put the banjo and banjo assembly on there and the bob fitting, and then I'll just run this hosing all the way down and into there, and then we'll move on to the regulator. I'm going to show you the banjo adapter setup off the truck a bit easier. So this is the factory banjo bolt that came out the back of the fuel supply line, the hard line on the back of the pump. And then the kit comes with 2 new washers, and then so go bolt, washer on the back side, and then it will be the actual factory fitting, factory hard line fitting, and then another washer, then this banjo adapter, and then the barb fitting, and then this hose will go to the back of the truck where the fuel supply is. So pretty easy, simple setup, but easier to show you off the truck. So I'll just put this on real quick. Alright, so there's a good look at the banjo bolt, the 2 crush washers, and then the banjo adapter, and then the barb fitting, and then here's the fuel supply hose. Got a hose clamp on there, zip tie to stop the fraying, and then that just follows the wiring harness all the way down. So, cool. Next up, we'll move on to the fuel regulator, which we just have to hook these 2 up to, and then the fuel return, and then the electrical. We need to pull the wiring harness off the fuel pump, so we have the IPR, but we need the harness because that's where this plug is, and the truck won't run without it. So I've got the fuel regulator all rigged up here. It's great. You just really want to drop your regulator and gauge. It really is good for it, you know. Just stress test it. Yep, got all the fittings on there for the supply lines, return lines. Well, the return lines. Lose a little bit of daylight here, but pretty much all done. I'm ready for testing. Turn it on and see if it works. So I got the fuel hose plumbed. I got all the electrical done. Looks like a rat's nest, but basically I just tied the power key switch on power to the relay. Where's the relay? Oh, to the relay to the water heat element, I believe it is. Just spliced that in since that's key on power, and then the rest of them I just zip tied since I'm not using them. There's the engine bay shot, and I did mount the regulator. Still need to set it to 65 psi, but I haven't turned it on yet to test if it even works, but that all looks pretty good. This is just a vent to atmosphere, so we leave it. So yeah, I think the only thing left to do is to do it. I think we'll turn it on. Well, I think I'll put power to it, key on power, and see if the fuel pump works. So let's test this out. Alright, so I got both batteries hooked up. Yeah, in theory, as soon as I turn the key on, we should hear the fuel pump. So I got the old IPR out, pretty easy. Perks of going with e-fuel is there's no fuel ball on the way. So came out really easily. 1.1" socket on a breaker bar, and then a ratchet, easy peasy. Comes right out. And I'll show you this. Here's the old IPR. Alright, so over to the studio where I have one prepared. So overnight parts from Germany, China, I think all Ford motorcrafts are made out of now, or some of it mixture. But yeah, there's a side-by-side. This is the jam that I was talking about that backed off, and then the whole spacer and solenoid slid off. But they do say life is too short to drive boring cars and to customize everything. But what about customizing your IPR? Check out my 3-piece IPR. New and improved. Not really. It ejectocetoed. So I don't know if that's salvageable, because that looks like a pretty, there we go. Looks like a pretty good press fit. So don't know, we'll see. But got a new Motorcraft one. Not something I would want to cheap out on at all, considering this is a vital piece of equipment. It would be nice if it came with a better jam nut, but it's what it is. I might put a jam nut on here or small nylon if I can find one with the same profile, but for now it should be alright. So I'll quit blabbing and I will throw this in the truck. So for this back nut, it does have a torque spec. It's 53 inch-pounds for you King Kongs out there. Inch-pounds, not foot-pounds. And we're going to use this very average-sized torque wrench. Some would say it's well above average, probably has a great personality. But we're going to use this massive guy to torque this nut down, and then we should be good to go test it to fire. So we will see. Checking the torque spec because I'm paranoid. I'm not trying to buy another one of these. Anytime now, please. Yes. Whew. All right. There it is. So I just need to plug the harness in. Oh yeah, just right in the oil. It's just, it loves it. Connectors love just being drenched in oil. It's good for it. That's why they're on a 7.3. All they do is leak oil. Yep, got the new grommet on the connector for the IPR. So yeah, now let's try the starts again. See if she'll start. Jumper pack engaged. When they start after a while, you really want to let it warm up and you really let it just sit and idle. That's mint.